Hello, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about usage management in Revenue Cloud billing. So first, what is usage management? So it's a feature in Salesforce Revenue Cloud. It enables businesses to track, rate, and bill customers based on their actual usage of products or services. It supports multiple billing processes, so either products that include a grant. So for example, you sell a product at a recurring rate, monthly price, yearly price, quarterly, that includes a grant of usage, right? So for example, you sell an AI product that includes 1,000 credits a month, and then beyond that, you may charge overage, and your overage may be a flat fee, or it may be based on tiers. You can also simply build out products that are pay-as-you-go, so simply usage-based, always build in arrears. That's also going to be supported with usage management. So what we're going to look at today in the video is we're going to look at how you can set up usage management, so all the data that needs to be created to leverage usage management, and then we're going to look at how to use it and actually invoice a customer based on that new usage product. So we're going to go through a couple of setup steps. So we're going to create our product, make sure we add it to our catalog. We're going to create the usage definition product. Then we're going to create the unit of measure class and unit of measure. We're going to create a usage resource. We're going to create a product usage grant because we're going to allow a grant of usage with our product. Then we're going to create our rate cards, the base and the tier rate cards. We're going to create the price book rate cards, which is going to link our rate cards to our price books. Then we're going to create a rating frequency policy. We're finally going to refresh our tables, refresh our index, and then we're going to be good to start using usage management in Revenue Cloud. So what that's going to then look like is we'll go through creating a quote, creating an order. We're going to activate our order, make sure we refresh our asset decision tables. Then we're going to create our transaction journals, being the actual consumption usage for our customer. Then we're going to summarize our usage data. Finally, we're going to calculate the rate and create our liable summary, and we're going to be able to generate invoices in Revenue Cloud billing. Let's get going and jump into Salesforce to see what that looks like. So the first thing we're going to do, as I said, is we're going to create our usage-based product. So we're going to create a new product. Let's call it AI-powered Design Hub. We're going to make sure we set this to active. Configure during sale, you can set or not, depending on your requirements for your specific product. We'll leave it to allowed. We're not going to check to sell only with other products because we want to be able to sell that as a standalone product type. We'll leave set to none. Usage model type, we want to make sure we set that to anchor us, and that's going to be the main usage product that we're selling. And finally, we'll hit save. Our product is now created. We want to make sure we assign it to a category. So we'll simply assign that to the AI category in our existing software catalog. We'll go back to our product. Now we'll assign the product selling model option. So we want to sell that on a term-based monthly. We'll use the default proration policy for this. Hit save. Back to your product. Going to want to scroll all the way down to your price book to create the price book entry for your product. So now let's say we sell this at a $25 a month rate for our monthly term-based product selling model. Now that our product is created and assigned to our catalog, we can really jump now to setup and make sure we refresh our product index right away so that when we get to quoting and testing, it's already available. So under product discovery settings and setup, you can go to your index, rebuild your index. You can simply do, if you've already gone through this, a partial index rebuild and hit rebuild. We're going to add back to our standard menu in Salesforce, and we will look for unit of measure class. So we are going to create first our unit of measure class. You're going to create a new unit of measure class. In our case, we'll call that the AI processing unit. So the unit of measure class is going to allow you to have multiple units of measures that relate to one another under that unit of measure class. So right now we're only going to create one. So we're going to give it a code. We'll set the status for now to draft, and we'll hit save. And then you're going to look in the menu for units of measure to create your unit of measure. So under unit of measure, you're going to want to create a new unit of measure. We'll call that AI token, assign a code. Unit of measure class, you're going to want to link that up to the unit of measure class you just created, so AI processing units. sequence you can set to 10. If you have multiple units of measures, that's going to define how they're treated. We don't need to set a conversion factor or scale because we only have one. And we're going to set the type to count in our scenario. And the status we can already set to active for our unit of measure. We'll head back to our unit of measure class, and now we'll set our default unit of measure to the AI token unit of measure we just created. And we can now set our status to active on the unit of measure class. So we've got our product, our unit of measure, and unit of measure class created already. Now that this is done, you're going to want to look for usage resource in your menu, and we want to create a new usage resource for our product. We'll call that AI token consumption. We'll assign it to the unit of measure class we just created. So AI processing unit, we'll set the default unit of measure to the new unit of measure you created, AI token. Again, define a code for your usage resource. Category is going to be defined as usage. You can set the status to draft for now and define the usage aggregation policy according to what you need. Right now, we'll simply use the default aggregation policy for this. Once your usage resource is created, you can now set it to active. And now you've got your unit of measure class, and usage resource created. Now, before we add into the next steps, let's go back to our product for a second. We also need to make sure we create the usage definition product. That's going to be required. So the usage definition product is the product that's going to be on your invoice for the usage that actually goes through. So the product that you sell and the product that's going to end up on your invoice for overage are different. That's the product that we're going to get for our recurring $25 a month invoice. And then any overage rate is going to go against our usage definition product. And what you're going to see on your invoice is really the usage resource name that you just created when you go against that overage on one of your invoices. So what you can do at this point is you could go from the start and create a new product, or you could leverage from the product the deep clone feature that's going to allow you to clone the already existing product. So you can now give a name to your new product. So we'll simply extend the same name, but add that as definition product. So AI powered design up definition product. We'll do deep clone. So that's going to recreate our product and product selling model option. And then we can view cloned product. And on here, let's make sure we set this to active, remove the typo in the product name, set the product to active, and we don't need a price book entry at this point for that product. Simply make sure you've got a product selling model option as well for that usage definition product. Now that we've got this created as well, what we want to create now is our usage grant. So that's not always required, but if you do want to offer a grant along with your usage-based product, you'll have to create a product usage grant to be able to do this. So you'll look in the menu for product usage grants. We'll create a new one. We'll simply call that AI token grant. Make sure to have your usage resource set to the usage resource you just created. The quantity that's going to be included monthly with our product is going to be 1,000. The product offer is the main product that you're selling that comes along with this grant. So the AI powered design hub unit of measure class is going to be the unit of measure class that you just created. So AI processing units. Your unit of measure is going to be your new unit of measure. AI token is the overage chargeable, yes, no. So in our case, we'll set that to yes. We'll leave the status as draft for now. The usage definition product is the second product we just created. So the definition product that we created after the main product. Then at this point, you could define validity period terms. So if you need to, right now, we'll simply set that to 0. Period unit is going to get set to none. And drawdown order, we're going to set to expiring first. The refresh policy and rollover policy will leave blank for now. And we'll set our start date back to the beginning of the year so that we can create our quotes back in the past. And we'll hit save on our product usage grant. Now that we have our product usage grant created, we want to go on and create our rate cards. So we'll go to rate cards in the menu. Now you want to create a new rate card. So we'll call our first rate card AI token base rate. So you first need your base rate card. The rate card type is going to be defined as base. Effective from, again, we'll set that back to the beginning of the year, January 1st, and we'll hit save on the rate card itself. Now you want to create a rate card entry for that base rate card. The rate card entry is going to look up to your new usage resource, AI token consumption, to the product that you're selling, the AI powered design hub. The product selling model is going to be term-based monthly. Is the rate negotiable or not? You can define this as well. So we want it to be negotiable, so it can be modified by sales rep as they're quoting this. We'll leave the status to draft for now. The rate unit of measure needs to be in the currency that you're going to sell this in. So in our case, that's going to be in US dollars. If you're selling in multiple currencies, you'll need to create multiple rate card entries for every one of those. And finally, you need to set the overage rate for your rate card. So the base overage is going to be 10 cents per token. And the effective date, we're going to set back to the beginning of the year, but 1 day after the base rate card itself. So we'll set that to the 2nd of January and it's save. Now that that's created, we can also go ahead and set that to active and it's save again. So we now have a product created with a price book entry at $25 a month. We have a grant of 1,000 tokens a month included with the product. And now we know that we have a negotiable rate card at 10 cents per token beyond the standard included usage. Now we also want to add tiers to that, right? So if the customer goes beyond that 1,000, if they go up to specific tiers, they're going to get discount on the standard rate that's being applied to their usage. We'll go back to our rate cards and we'll create a new rate card for the tiers. Now we're gonna go ahead, hit new AI token tier rate card. The rate card type is going to be tier. Effective from, again, we'll set that back to the beginning of the year, January 1st. Hit save. Your rate card is created. Again, we want to go ahead and create a rate card entry. We'll select the same usage resource, the same product that we want to sell with this. Product selling model, again, is going to be monthly. Is it negotiable or not? So are sales users able to modify this in runtime? Rate unit of measure, again, we want to define as USD. We'll leave rate blank for now as we're going to create separate tiers based on the quantity that's being sold. And again, set back your effective from date to January 2nd for your rate card entry. You can now hit save. And then in the related list for your rate card entry, you can go ahead and create new tiers for your rate card. So what we're going to do here is we'll set different tiers. So we'll say that from 1,500 to 5,000, we're overriding the price to 9 cents per usage token. That's going to be the first tier that we set. So let's save on this one. And we'll clone that one to create a second rate adjustment tier. So we'll set that one to start at 5,001 up to 10,000. And that one is going to be 8 cents per token. And finally, we'll create a third one with no upper bound. Lower bound is going to be 10,001. Remove the extra 0 and we'll clear out the upper bound. And then at this point, the tokens are going to be 7 per beyond 10,000. Make sure you go back to your rate card entry itself, set it to active. Now that you've got the different tiers set up for it, hit save. So now we've got both of our rate cards created. We now need to link the rate cards to the price book that we're using. So in our scenario, we're simply using the standard price book. So we'll look in the menu for price book rate cards. That's going to be the object where you want to create the link between your rate card and your price book. So if you have multiple price book, you'll need to create multiple price book rate card entries. And there's also a decision table built on this object that you will need to refresh when changes are made. So we'll create a new entry in our price book rate card to link the standard price book to our AI token base rate. And we'll do save and new because we also want to link the standard price book to our AI token tier rate card. And again, we'll hit save on that one. Now that you've created your rate cards, we'll also want to make sure that we create a product grant binding policy. So head over to grant binding policy under menu, We'll create a new one. Let's call that AI token grant binding policy. We'll sync that to our product, AI powered design hub. Grant binding type is going to be set to self, and you do not need to set a binding target when you're setting the type to self. Once your fields are filled in, you can hit save. Final record that we're going to want to create at this point is going to be the rating frequency policy. So we're going to look for rating frequency policies in the menu, and we're going to go ahead and create a new rating frequency policy. So how often can you rate the usage for this product? So the usage resource is going to be your new AI token consumption resource that we created earlier. You're going to look up to your AI powered design hub product, if that's what you're using, or whatever product you are using in your example. And the rating period, we're going to set to monthly. So we're going to want to be able to rate that product on a monthly basis. And we'll now hit save now that this is created. We've now created the base data that we need to leverage that product in quoting. First, before we can actually use it, we need, as usual, to refresh our decision table. So there's a bunch of decision tables that go into this process, and you can go ahead and refresh them manually or use different ways, use a flow to do it. We're going to do it with a flow just so that we're time efficient here and we refresh as many as possible as quickly as possible. So I've got a screen flow on my own page here that allows me to refresh multiple decision tables at once. I've got a video on how to do this if you're curious on how to achieve this, but basically you've got around 10 decision tables to refresh for all of those changes, given all of the objects that we've created. So we've got tier rate cards, all the rate card entries, the price book rate cards, the price book entries, because we've created new ones, and the price book rate card relationship. So I'm going to go ahead and hit next on this. This is going to trigger the refresh for all of our decision tables. And now we'll leave that process go. It's going to take a couple minutes, and we'll come back to create our quote and start going ahead with runtime for the usage products. While this is running, if you want to see and track the refresh on your decision table and make sure and see the status of those, you can go to setup and go to monitor workflow services. That's going to allow you to see the refresh that's happening on your different decision tables. So as we can see now, we've got one that's already completed and one in progress. So it's going to go through the 10 or so decision tables that need to be refreshed. And once that's all done, we can keep going with our demo. Once your decision tables have fully refreshed, we can now head over and start to create a new quote. So we'll go over to our quote object, create a new quote, Apple AI token for 2025. We'll assign this to our account Apple. We'll hit save. On our quote, we're going to go ahead, browse catalog, select the price book that you've been using so far, add the new product that we just created, the AI powered design hub, hit add, and save our quote. Once the product is added on to our quote, we'll leave the quantity set to 1. We'll simply change the start date back in time slightly to the beginning of February, and we'll extend our end date through the end of the year to December 31st, and we'll hit save. Once your quote is saved, nothing else to do right now on this quote. Obviously, you would normally have approval process, all that stuff to go through, but for now, we can simply go ahead and create our order for this. Once your order is created, make sure you've got a billing address and a shipping address on your order header. So we'll set that up, set our bill to contact to Tim Cook, and it's save on our order. And finally, we can get this activated to both activate the order, but also launch the asset creation flow for this, which is also going to create some usage related records in the background for our account. So if we head over to the Apple account now, we should see we have a new asset created for the AI powered design hub with our start date and end date. And if you head over to the wallet tab, you can see that you've got an asset identified on there with a wallet available. So if we click through on that asset, we see we have our AI token consumption usage resource available now. Our consumption is at 0% for now, and our balance is still at 1,000, and we see the standard unit of measure for this. So that's the wallet as it is at this point in time, right? It's just been created. No usage has been created against it. A couple records do also get created in the background. So you get some usage entitlement bucket. You also get a usage entitlement account created for your account to track the usage for this, with the start date, end date, the price book entry, and the grind binding target to the product that you're selling this grant against. Now that we've got our quote, our order created, the assets are created, and we've got some of the main data points created for our usage tracking, before we can go ahead and create our usage, you also want to make sure at this point that you do another refresh on some specific decision tables. So if I head back to my own page for usage management, I have a second flow to run some updates against a couple different decision tables again. So we've got 3 decision table that you want to make sure you refresh in this scenario at this point in time. So again, normally you're going to want to make sure that this is on a schedule happening so that whenever usage comes through for that entitlement, your decision tables are going to be refreshed at that point in time. So in this scenario, I want to refresh asset rate decision table, the asset rate card entry, and the asset tier-based rate adjustments. You might have more depending on your use case, but these are the ones that I'm going to refresh now. So again, I'm going to hit next, and this is going to launch the refresh for those 3 decision tables. And if we head back over to our monitor workflow services and we refresh, we're going to see that one is already completed, second one is running. And as soon as this is all done, we can keep going in our use case and start to create usage for our new product. Once your decision table refreshes have completed, you can now add back to the usage management app on the home page. Now, the first thing we're going to want to do at this point is we're going to want to go to usage details. So this is where you're going to enter raw usage. Obviously, this might be created in Salesforce, but this might also be coming from an external system that's going to track your raw usage and push it into the system. So now we're going to manually create, for this example, a new set of usage for that product. So we're going to set the account, the Apple account that we've been using so far. Quantity unit is going to be the AI token that you've created earlier. Status is going to be set to pending. Quantity, now we do want to trigger an invoice on this, so we're going to go beyond the standard grant for this product. We'll set this to 1500. The reference record should be the asset that you've created. So the AI powered design hub, the usage resource is going to be the usage resource that we've created earlier. And now we'll set our activity date in the first period of billing that should be created for that product. So we'll do February 5th at this point, because we know that our product starts on February 1st. The end date will also set on that date, but a bit later in the day. And the start date will also set at that point in time. And you can now hit save on your transaction journal. Now that your journal has been created, you can head back to the homepage again of usage management. And now you're going to go back to usage detail, but on the list view, and you want to click on summarize. It says now that summarizing usage detail entries, this is going to take some time. So this is launching a background job again that we're going to be able to track under monitor workflow services. So if we head back to that page in setup and we refresh, we can see that we've got one job that's already completed, usage summary create, and now the create usage summary. If we click through this, we can see that there are multiple tasks that are running in the background for that job. So this is going to take a couple of minutes to run. So again, we'll take a pause here. And once that's completed, we can add back onto the next step to track usage management in Salesforce. Once the batch job completes, we can now add back over to our usage management homepage. So a couple of things should have happened at this point. So the job will have created usage summaries, and it will also have summarized the usage that we just created now. So if we add on to our usage summary tab in the usage management app, we'll hit all usage summaries. And now we can see that the system has auto created multiple usage summary records for every billing period that we're going to have for that specific product, right? So we've got our different usage summaries. So if we scroll all the way down to the one that covers the period where we've built our example usage, so that was on February 5th. So we can see that we have one record that has 1500 consumption units. So that's the one that we just created for. So if we click through on this, we can see that we have 15 total units, 1000 debited to our grant, and 500 overage beyond the standard grant that was included with our product. We head over to the liable summary. For now, we don't have any calculation. That's going to come later down in our process. And the rateable summary as well is created, but the overage quantity and the net unit rate have not been calculated yet. So at this point, what you want to do is add back to your usage summary list view, and we're going to go ahead and click calculate rate. And this is going to launch another background job again here that we can track under monitor workflow services and setup. So if we head back to the main page of monitor workflow services, we can see that we've got a new job running now. So we've got create rateable summary first going through. And again, if we click through, we're going to see that there are a list of multiple tasks that are running in the background while this is running. So again, this is going to take a couple of minutes to run depending on the volume of data that you're going through. So we'll leave that run to a couple of minutes and we'll be back to keep going through our example. Once the job has ended again, and it has gone through all the different records that it had to go through to do the updates required, you can head back to the usage management app. Now we're under the usage summary tab. So if we again scroll down all the way to our record that has the usage, we can see that the rateable summary is now complete. If we click through to the record itself and we go over to the usage rateable summary, we also see that now it's fully calculated. So we can see that the total amount that was calculated, the net unit rate for the overage quantity that was set, and the tier quantity that was defined for that level of usage. Now, if we head back over to under the menu, if we look for liable summaries, we'll see that our liable summaries are created for Apple, but not yet ready for Invoice. They're still in new status. So one final step to run, and this could be launched a different way, but we'll run it simply from the flow page. So under flows and setup, you'll look for a flow called create liable summary. You can click through, and again, you can have that on a screen flow, or you could define a different way to launch this, but I'm simply going to go ahead and run this flow. And again, this launches another background job. So if we head over to our monitor workflow services, head back to the home page, we can see that we've got a new job running, create liable summary. Click through on this. And again, you've got multiple tasks that have to run. That's going to take another couple of minutes, and then we can come back and see the final result of that, the whole process that we've been going through in this video, right? So we've created our product, created all the related records that were necessary for usage rating. We've created the usage itself, and now we're going to be ready to invoice now that this is all done. So I'll be back in a couple minutes once that process is run and the liable summary is ready for invoicing. Once again, now that the job has completed, under the monitor workflow services page, we can head back to our liable summaries. That page hasn't been refreshed yet, so we'll simply hit refresh here. And we can now see that we've got two records that are now ready for invoicing, one at 0 because that period is also completed, but also the period where we added the usage where we went over, and now that's set to a $50 overage that's going to be caught in the next invoice run. So let's head into our Apple account and let's hit generate invoices. So this is going to launch the invoice job for everything that's ready to be billed for Apple under any order. We only have one active now, so it should only be limited to the order we just created. We'll set our target date to April 1st and our invoice date to April 1st as well, and we'll hit generate. This is going to launch the generate invoices job in the background. We get a notification now that it's completed. So if we head over to our invoices tab, we can see we've got a new invoice on here for Apple. So we'll click through to see what it looks like. So we've got our billing account, bill to contact, and if we go on related, we have multiple invoice lines. So we have a couple invoice lines for our regular $25 recurring monthly fee, right, for February, March, and April, because we're billing in advance. So that month's already billed, but we also get AI token consumption. So as I was saying earlier, if we click through on that invoice line, we can see that the product for that invoice line is our definition product, but the name is defined by the usage resource that we created earlier as we were going through the process. So we see our full invoicing that encompasses both our recurring fee and our usage fees based on the tiers that we've set earlier during the video. So this was how you can set up and use usage management in Revenue Cloud billing. As usual, I hope this was helpful. Please take a moment to subscribe if you like the content. Let me know if you've got any questions in the comment. Please reach out. Have a good day.